Hi, Dave Roscoe here. It is Friday, February 6, 2026, and we've got quite a bit to talk about today. There's been some rumors going around about a potential Kraken listing being imminent, and we'll talk about that. Today is Pi Moderator Appreciation Day, and I'll have something to say about that as well. And thanks to Pi Pioneers X on X, I was made aware that they've put out a roadmap for the Pi node updates, which give a little more insight into where they are and their timeline for rolling out version 23 on mainnet. And we'll talk about that as well. But first, the metrics. The circulating supply is at 8.86 billion Pi, and there were 128.8 thousand user accounts migrated since the last update, totaling 216.6 million Pi. That's a lot of Pi. People were talking on X about 500 million Pi being transferred out of the Pi Foundation 1 wallet to the Pi Foundation 11 wallet, and then 50 million of that being transferred to the Pi Foundation 2. I will tell you that if you look at my FAQ, way down at the bottom, there's an important wallet section. And all of this is laid out as to what this all means. It is perfectly normal for the Pi Foundation 1 wallet to fund the Pi Foundation 11. Pi Foundation 11 is the parent wallet for Pi Foundation 2, which is where all migrations come from. So every time they need to top up the Pi Foundation 2 wallet to continue migrations, that Pi has to come from somewhere, and that comes from the Pi Foundation 11 wallet. So just so you know. And by the way, that's also where fees go. And if, for example, if they have to recall Pi, it goes back to the Pi 11 wallet. It doesn't go right back to the Pi Foundation 2. There is currently 16.5 million Pi in the Pi migration wallet, and migrations are not happening right now. The last migration happened about 20 hours ago, so they seem to be in a bit of a pause. But when they're not paused, they are migrating a lot of people, and obviously a lot of Pi. So this is interesting. The migrated unlocked rewards are at 3.69 billion Pi, and there were 55.5 million Pi unlocked since my last update and are now free to be traded on the open markets. Now, some people have been asking about whether a Kraken listing for the Pi coin is imminent, and others have said that it's all but a done deal. Now, obviously, I'm always skeptical when I hear these types of things, but I will say this: Kraken, for quite a while now, has been selling perpetual futures for Pi, but not spot trading. And that's not that uncommon. A lot of exchanges that don't sell the actual Pi coin will sell speculative vehicles based on Pi. And basically that just means that you're betting on what Pi is going to do. You don't have to actually own or be able to distribute any Pi. So it is not uncommon, and you don't have to go through KYB to do it. But let's take a look at their roadmap. Right. This is, if you look at it here, it says here, integration of new blockchains and listing of the native token for trading. And this is under the chains, right? It says here, and right there is Pi. So it is definitely on Kraken's radar to list the Pi coin. Now, the question is, how long has this been here? I don't know. I don't know when this was added. This could have been here for the entire year, since the day Pi went live. I do not know. I could not tell you. If anybody knows the answer to this and can show me with like a before and after screenshot, that would be great. But this is promising. This seems to suggest that there is a plan for the Kraken exchange to list Pi, and that would be big. We need more liquidity, and the best way to get that is to have more listings on more exchanges. I understand that Exchanges have been either reluctant or unable to pass KYB, whether that's because, they can't pass muster, or because the Pi network is not giving them the attention that they need to get it done. And to me, that sounds more in line with my thinking about why we're not on more exchanges, and that the Pi network doesn't want it to be. And the easiest way to prevent that is to just not acknowledge KYB applications. So maybe this is changing. I hope it does. I mean, we've got the first anniversary of the open network for the Pi coin coming up in just about 2 weeks. And we've got Pi Day 2026 coming up. So I expect there to be some significant news between now and then. What that is, one can only guess, but I don't think it'll be nothing. So today is Pi Moderator Appreciation Day. Now, I know that in the past, I've had a few unkind words to say about moderators, and I have since changed my tune. Over the course of doing these shows, I have become in contact with quite a few moderators, and all of them great people. There is one moderator who I won't name, who I think is just an ass. And thanks to him, I am still muted on the KYC chat for something that I never did. And I wish I had the screenshots to prove it, but he just refuses to acknowledge his mistake. And honestly, I just think he's a bitter person. So, but other than this one bad apple, I've come across some great people. Now, I think some moderators are a little bit full of themselves. But you know what? Imagine being a cop, right? You're a new cop and you're full of ideals and enthusiasm, and you want to change the world. You want to help people, right? And then day after day after day, you're exposed to the worst that society has to offer. And what's even worse is that your own system seems to be working against you. You don't get support. I'm not saying that's the case with the moderators, but it's an analog. When you deal with some of the things that I've seen on these chat forums, the patience that is demonstrated by the moderators in a lot of these cases is almost godlike. I don't know how they do it. My patience is nowhere near up to snuff to be able to be a moderator, and I have no desire to do it. But I want you to keep in mind, when you want to badmouth a moderator, right? These people are volunteers. They do not get paid for doing what they do. At most, they may get a little more insight as to what's going on behind the scenes, but most of them don't even do that. Now they have super mods that may have a little more access, but remember, these guys are volunteers. They decided to do this of their own will, knowing that there's no compensation. And what exactly do they do? Well, the obvious answer is they moderate the Pi chats. Some will say they don't do a very good job of it, but I think they do. Most of the people who complain are the people who just don't get the answers they want and don't listen to the warnings that are given to them when they step out of line and are told that you need to stop what you're doing or you're going to get muted. And then, of course, there are some people, sometimes, a person can walk into a situation where the moderator's having a really bad day. They've answered the same exact question so many times, and all somebody has to do is scroll up to see the answer to their question. But no, as soon as they get into the room, they just blurt out their question as if they're the only person in the world. And now the moderator has to respond to them. And if they don't, people often get belligerent, saying, "Hey, why are you ignoring me?" When all you really had to do was scroll up and see this question answered 100 times before. So sometimes the moderator says, "You know what? Screw you. You're muted." And I don't, honestly, in that case, I don't blame them. So like I said, there are certain types of people who don't like the moderators. I am not one of them. I've come to appreciate them very much. And I have an ongoing dialogue with several of them. They answer Pioneer's questions, obviously. They monitor Pi apps and products. They test new features and report bugs. Now, another thing you may not realize is when you go to all of these chat rooms and there's all of these different translations for different languages, I mean, dozens of them. Most of them are provided by moderators that come from those countries or are fluent in the language. Otherwise, they wouldn't exist. They moderate the Fireside forums. And, say what you will about Fireside. It's no easy task to moderate that, especially when people are spending their tokens to post things and then have them taken down because they violate a rule. Things can get a little squirrely in there. But my point is that's a lot of work being done for free. And they're doing it for no other reason in that they share our collective belief and faith in the Pi network and the Pi coin. And they're driven by a need to help others. So I want to say personally, thank you to the Pi moderators. Your efforts are appreciated. Some of you suck and you know who you are, but for the most part, I think you guys are doing a great job. And my hat's off to you. So let's talk about Pi node upgrades. Now, you may ask, well, who cares about Pi node upgrades? Well, people who run Pi nodes would care. But it does give us an insight into one important thing, the timeline for the version 23 upgrade on mainnet. And I just want to show you that here. So if you go to the Pi node page on mindpi.com, and you'll see there's a notification here that says Pi mainnet blockchain protocol is under upgrade. Every mainnet node must upgrade to version 19.6. By the way, 19.6 is the current version, but there are people who are running earlier versions that didn't have to upgrade. Now it's going to be mandatory. And it says see deadlines and instructions here. So if you click that link, you're brought to this document here, which is a shared Google Doc, and it gives the upgrade path. Apparently they're going to do this in stages. So right now 19.6 is the current version that's being mandated. And then from there, they'll go to 19.9 and then 20.2, 21.1, 22.1, and then 23.0. And that will conclude the upgrade. Now they do this in stages, A, to give all of the node operators a chance to come up to speed, and B, to make sure that each upgrade doesn't cause a regression in functionality, in which case they may have to go back. And going back one version is a lot easier than going back 2 or 3 or more. So, and if you look at the key dates here, I mean, it doesn't go too far into the future, but we have some clues here. So obviously February 12th is when the upgrade to 19.6 has to be done. And then February 27th, the upgrade to version 19.9. And then in March 12th, 2026, the upgrade to 20.2 must be complete. Now, after that, they don't give any timelines, but it does tell us that at least they'll be partway done by March 12th, 2026. Now, I had said way before, when they first announced it, that I did not expect mainnet to be upgraded within the first quarter of this year. And it looks like that's kind of hold true. It's probably going to be before mid-year, before the version 23 protocol is out. Now, the funny thing is that, by this time, the Stellar network is already at version 25. So they've already leapfrogged us by 2 major versions. But I think eventually the Pi network will be more in lockstep with the Stellar network upgrades. Not that they have to be, but I think it's in their best interest to be, because they are a fork and each version introduces new capabilities, closes security flaws and all of that. But right now they've got a lot on their plate and they're making a big jump between 19.1 to 23. So I think it's wise that what they're doing, and eventually they'll be in a more lockstep cadence. Well, that's all I've got for today. I just wanted to hop on here. I know I was here on Monday No, actually Sunday, sorry. And I wanted to give you an update because, a few things have happened. And as I always say, if anything breaks, I'll be sure to hop on here and let you know. But until then, don't panic. Stay the course. And remember, the success of the Pi Network begins with you. Pi to the moon. Peace.